So this was the other question on the homework that a lot of people asked about. I made a video of this one while we were Zooming today. Wow, that sounds weird. And made a little mistake, so I'm going to remake this video. So we are looking at part C. We are looking at part C. Matter of fact, we could look at part B too real quick. So part B says, find D, the second derivative of B with respect to t. So what we already do is we have this derivative. So really I just need to take the derivative again. So if I go ahead and differentiate that with respect to t, right, do the whole thing kind of right in there, we're going to get second derivative of B with respect to t equals, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute that 1/5 through right away. So I'd really realize that I have 20 subtract 1/5 b. And so if I take the derivative of that, what I'm going to get is negative 1/5 and multiplied by db dt, right? Because chain rule, I'm taking the derivative with respect to t, not b. So I need to keep that in mind. And so what that's going to give me is the second derivative of b with respect to t is equal to negative 1/5 multiplied by, well, db dt. That's what I already had, you know, right up here. So I can just go ahead and substitute that in. So multiplied by 1/5 times 100 minus b. And so what we're ultimately going to get is negative 1/25 multiplied by 100 minus b. And that's the second derivative. So what we're being asked to find now, so it said find that, got it, found the second derivative. Use the second derivative of b with respect to t to explain why the graph of b cannot resemble the following graph. Well, what does the second derivative tell me about that graph? Well, what is this the graph of? They're saying it can't be the graph of b. So they're saying that they're wondering if this is the graph of b based on t. And so we're wondering could that be it? And we know this about the second derivative. We know what the second derivative is. So what does the second derivative tell me about b? Well, second derivative tells me about concavity. So I could learn about concavity. And what I'm noticing is that, let's see, that negative 1/25 is going to make it negative unless b happens to be greater than 100. So when b is greater than 100, right, I got to have something like 101 there. I'd get a negative times a negative and a positive. But when b is less than 100, right, when b is less than 100, we're going to have like 100 subtract something like 95, and that'd be 5, and then multiplied by a negative 1/25 will still be negative. So that means that d squared b, or the second derivative of b with respect to t, is negative when b is less than 100. So that means, what does this mean? Well, I'm trying to use that to tell about the graph of b. So if the second derivative is less than 0, then b would be concave down. Okay, b concave down. So b would be concave down every time that b is less than 100. Well, where's b? B is here, right? And we can look, anytime that b is less than 100, the graph is supposed to be concave down. And it's concave up right here, which is why this can't be the graph of b. It's not possible. So again, second derivative tells us about concavity, showing us that the concavity would be negative, or it'd be concave down every time b is less than 100, and that doesn't fit with what we see in the graph. We see that b is actually concave up on that section. And so that's why it's not possible.